Hi everyone, it's Dr. Crad. The following is a case of a traumatic cataract and iridodialysis in a young patient, all from a rubber band. Today we are going to perform cataract surgery followed by an iridodialysis repair. An iridodialysis is when the iris tears from the iris root near the sclera. With traumatic cataracts, you need to look out for zonular weakness. Early signs of zonular weakness would be phacogenesis of the lens while irrigating with intracameral lidocaine, and that will show as like wobbling of the entire lens, an unusually deep anterior chamber, especially when instilling viscoelastic, capsule wrinkles or folds while performing capsulorhexis, or difficulty hydrodissecting or spinning the lens. Fortunately, none of that was encountered. The cataract was soft and was removed without any problems. While performing cortex removal, look at the capsulorhexis edge to make sure that the capsulorhexis edge is not shifting while tugging that cortex, because that would also be a sign of zonular weakness. After polishing the capsule, I'll be ready to implant the lens, but always check your lens load. In this case, I detect a problem. The leading haptic is going to kink on itself if it's advanced. So fortunately, I checked that, and then I pulled the leading haptic out. This is the light adjustable lens plus. If there was any zonular weakness, I was planning to use the regular LAL. I had that ready, but because the zonules look good, I'm using the plus for this young patient. The lens is in the bag and now beautifully centered. Next, we're going to shift our attention to the iridodialysis. This is myostat, which I will paint directly on the iris tissue to try to get constriction of the pupil. While I do get localized pupillary constriction, the constriction would be better with the viscoelastic removed, so that's what I'm doing now. And here I'm just demonstrating the iridodialysis to you with retroillumination. Next, I'm going to use viscoelastic to try to unroll any iris tissue. I want to make sure that the iris is not rolled up on itself. I want it nice and spread out and flat. I also use viscoelastic to create space in the ciliary sulcus. I then create a second paracentesis, and I angle it towards the area of the dialysis. Since the patient is awake, I then inject some lidocaine underneath the conjunctiva where the needles will pass. I then create a conjunctival peritomy in the area where my needles will pass adjacent to the dialysis. Iridodialysis repair can be done ab externo or ab interno. I choose to do it ab interno because I feel like I can better judge the depth of my needle pass. I'm going to instill some extra viscoelastic in the sulcus just to make sure that I don't accidentally nick the capsule. Using a guide needle, like a 27 gauge needle, to externalize the suture pass is an option, and that would create a larger opening in the sclera, which would then make it easier to bury the suture knot. However, since I'm going from the internal approach, I know that it will be a bit harder to bury the knot. I'm using these MST grasping forceps for countertraction, and I'm going to try to exit the sclera at the depth of the rest of the iris tissue. I'm grabbing some 0.12 forceps to grasp hold of the eye and also to provide countertraction to the needle pass. This is a 10-0 Prolene on a CIF4 needle. I feel like I'm a little deep there, so then I pass it at a level where I think I'm parallel to the iris plane. I wish the needle was a little bit longer, and that's why I'm entering through a paracentesis, because it can't reach all the way across the eye easily. Next, I'm going to withdraw the needle from the sclera, and I want to follow the curve of the needle, but as you can see, there's a lot of resistance passing this needle through the sclera because it's blunt on all sides. There's no cutting edge to this needle, and so you have to pull quite hard to get it through. And so I'm using some countertraction and just doing a little bit at a time because I don't want to force it and then rip something. From that tight pass, we know already that it won't be very easy to bury that knot. And so I see the benefit potentially of using a guide needle. In these cases that are not routine, it's important not to be in a rush. So I like to schedule them at the end of my surgery lineup so that I don't have to worry about staying on schedule for the next case. Next, we want to make the second needle pass, and we want to wiggle it through the paracentesis so that we don't catch any corneal tissue. And I'm thinking, is this needle going to be long enough? it's going to traverse further through the anterior chamber to get to where I want to pass it through the sclera. Again, I'm going to use some micro graspers by MST to provide counter traction. I make my pass through the peripheral iris, but I don't feel ergonomically that I'm set up correctly. So I'm going to let go of the needle. I want to reposition in a more comfortable way. It's a backhand pass, but maybe I can grab the needle at an angle that can get me further towards the sclera, but I'm still uncomfortable. So I'm just going to adjust my grip, rotate the needle, and then make another attempt. And this is one other advantage of using an external guide needle, because the external guide needle coupled with the suture needle gives it additional length. I want this needle to exit a couple clock hours to the left of the first pass. And that's at a level where I like it. Now I carefully externalize the second needle, similar to the first one. I don't want to be too quick or forceful that I inadvertently tear anything. And my plan is to tie the suture but leave a little slack. My goal is to have the iris tissue block the peripheral light from entering the eye. I don't want to tie the suture so tightly that it causes the pupil to shift from center or cause a severely peaked pupil. The goal is just to try to pull the iris tissue close to the trabecular meshwork so that it reduces the patient's glare. Before locking the knot, I want to make sure that the pupil is perfectly round. I will plan to use a Sinskey hook to try to push the knot into the sclera as I rotate it with a tying forceps, but I also position the knot right at the scleral exit so that it needs minimal rotation. After cutting the suture ends, I will attempt to rotate the knot inside the eye. I will use a combination of rotation of the suture while at the same time pressing on the knot head itself to facilitate entry into the sclera. I don't want any part of the knot exposed. This takes many attempts. I don't want to be so forceful though that I accidentally cut the suture. It's very important that the knot is buried so that I don't get erosion of the overlying conjunctiva. You can see how there is some slack in the suture, which is what I want. I then use my forceps to gently tug on the pupil border so that I can make sure that the iris is well opposed to the angle. That can also bring in the suture knot as well. Out of curiosity, I want to check the depth of my suture passes with gonioscopy, so I put some viscoelastic on the cornea and use a gonio prism, and from this view it looks like my passes were right through the trabecular meshwork. I double check my suture to make sure there's no knot exposure. I then suture the peritomy closed with a dissolvable Vicryl stitch. And even though things are looking like they're lining up fairly well right now, we're going to have a complication in the early postoperative period. Can you guess what it is? It's not something that I would have predicted. So I'm leaving the tails a little bit long on the suture just so it's less irritating. I remove the viscoelastic from inside the eye. I make sure the eye pressure is normal, and then I stress test my incisions to make sure they are watertight. A kiss of moxifloxacin, and here he is post-op. Look at that huge Delin. And this all occurred in less than a day. And clearly this part of the cornea did not get enough lubrication. So in the office, I trimmed just the conjunctiva adjacent to the limbus. I kept the suture in place. And here the patient is the following day, and the Delin has completely resolved with just aggressive lubrication and by trimming the conjunctiva adjacent to the limbus. The pupil's still a little bit constricted from the myostat. Myostat has a longer duration of action than myocol. The patient said he was using the computer a lot the evening of his surgery, and so that made his eye extra dry as well. Here you can see the suture holding the iris in place, that faint blue line underneath the conjunctiva. And this is the week after the pupil is back to normal size, and you can see in retroillumination that the iridodialysis doesn't show. Thank you so much for your attention. I appreciate you watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.